Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today we are in Cadell's Shipyard on Staten Island in dry dock number 5. We're actually standing on one of the wing tanks of the dry dock. And in front of me here in dry dock is the World War II era destroyer escort USS Slater. We're going to walk down the length of her hull and talk about some of the striking features of the ship while we wait for the yard workers to start pressure washing the hull. So the first striking feature you notice, she is painted in her World War II camouflage scheme. This is a series of light, dark, and medium grays. Dark blue in particular is pretty striking. You can see this big patch of dark blue here. That is more or less the color Battleship New Jersey would have been painted when she entered the Pacific in 1944. And because that blue is so dark, she earned the nickname of the Black Dragon. From a distance, she looked like a black ship. When Slater did her later service post-war, and all of her service with the Greek Navy, she was painted in a regular haze gray paint scheme. And that was how she was displayed up until 2014. At that time, the paint crew here at Cadell's Dry Dock painted the camouflage scheme back on her to really return her to her period of interpretation. So starting at the stern, we've got a flagstaff with the American flag flying from it. When the ship is in port, like she is now, high and dry, the flag flies from there. When she gets underway, the flag would shift to a pole aft of the funnel that we'll see in a minute. The base of the flagstaff are 2 depth charge rafts. These depth charge racks are an older technology. They're for rolling 600-pound depth charges off the fantail. Forward of them are a pair of 20mm guns in gun tubs. They're currently undercover. And super firing over top of that is the gun tub for the after 3-inch 50 caliber gun. On each side of that gun tub are the K-gun depth charge racks. The J davits mounted behind them are used to lift the 200-pound teardrop-shaped charges from the racks, we can see 3 of them, onto the actual launcher next to it. Superimposed over the 3-inch gun is a twin-mount 40mm. Originally, on early production destroyer escorts, that would be a quadruple 1.1-inch anti-aircraft gun, but those were rapidly phased out and replaced with twin-mount 40mm, which were more effective. Behind that, you might see a small gray column with a ball on either side. That is the after conning station. That's just a magnetic compass, so that if the bridge is knocked out, an officer can command from there. All he has is navigation, but he can yell from there down to after steering, where they can manually turn the rudders if needed. Directly above that is a Mark 51 director, which is the fire control system for the 40mm gun. On Slater, each 40mm mount has its own Mark 51, which means she can engage multiple aerial targets at once. This is a great late war addition, which helps defend against kamikazes. Mounted here above the side of the ship is a life raft, known as a Carley float. These tended to have metal tubes inside of them, which were partitioned, so if one tube was punctured, they were still buoyant, and they tended to be wrapped in usually cork. The bottom is a wooden grating, and it would actually be suspended by a net. So if you were sitting in a Carley float, you'd be partially submerged. This was usually okay in the Pacific. could be a death sentence in the North Atlantic. You'll notice it comes with paddles, and you can also see some canisters inside. They would tend to hold enough food and water for usually about 5 days for the number of people that could fit inside of one. And the Carly floats came in different sizes that had different capacities. These were used for most of the first half of the 20th century by the U.S. Navy. Forward of the after 40mm gun are a pair of midships 40mm positions, each with their own Mark 51 directors. As built, this is where the triple 21-inch torpedo tube would have been mounted. But as Axis warships became a rare sight, those were removed so that additional anti-aircraft guns could be added to protect against kamikazes and other airborne threats. Forward of that, we have tubs in the superstructure for a number of 20mm guns. Originally they were single mounts. Later they were changed to twin mounts. And those are built around the base of the funnel. So you might be able to see a little table built into the side of the superstructure there. It's got a green notebook on it. That is the ship's quarterdeck. You can also see this J-davit and accommodation ladder. That could be deployed. The bottom end held by the J-davit, the top end attached there. That is how you could board the ship from a small boat. Or it could be used as a gangway for pulled up next to a low pier. You can also see a roll of shore power cable next to the quarterdeck. Just beyond the accommodation brow here, to the left of the open door, is the ship's spud locker. You open the top and fill it with potatoes. As you need them, there are doors on the bottom. You can see that the side is graded so that they get air. So if they get wet, they'll dry out. Above the spud locker is a life net basket. That's another World War II era emergency flotation device. If the ship goes down in real quick, that'll simply float free. And it's basically a net with flotation devices all around the edge that the crew can get inside of, and that will theoretically keep them buoyant for a couple of days until the cork that it's made out of becomes waterlogged and sinks. On the after side of the funnel, you can see a small mast, which is where the American flag would be flown underway. And you can see scaffolding built around the forward face of the funnel. There was some wasted metal there that's been cropped out. And inside of the funnel, the various uptakes for the exhaust from the diesel generators are going to be capped over with steel plates. Forward of the funnel is the 3-inch practice loading machine. Below that, you might see that the superstructure jigs out on this side of the ship. On the opposite side of the ship, the superstructure is actually cut away a little bit, and that's where the ship's one boat would be mounted. Slater does have a boat, but it was left in Albany when the ship made the trip to dry dock here on Staten Island. Moving back to the aft face of the superstructure, you can see the flag bags mounted on the O2 level near the 12-inch signal lamp. And you might see, covered with a brown tarp, the 24-inch carbon arc searchlights. You can see that the mast of the ship is completely covered in scaffolding. And that is the main reason why the ship was brought into dry dock this year. The museum was able to raise enough money through private donations and through a grant in order to remove all of the post-World War II additions from the mast and replace wasted away World War II features that should be there. So this is part of a longer term project the museum has to return the ship to her World War II configuration. Here you can see the forward face of the superstructure. The round windows up there are the bridge, and you'll notice there's another level above that which is the open bridge where the captain would actually command from, although the helm is enclosed where the round windows are. Above that is some of the director equipment for the 3-inch guns. And you can see just forward of the bridge is a 20mm mount. And then on the level below that is mount 32, a 3-inch 50 caliber gun with 20mm guns on each side. And then here on the bow, you have mount 31, another 3-inch gun with the Hedgehog depth charge projector just behind it. And that could basically mortar the depth charges over the 3-inch gun. Forward of mount 31, you can see that there is a single combination